Welcome everyone to the second in a series of Legends of Penn Track and Field and Cross Country, brought to you by the 76 through 80 Penn Alumni Group. My name is Ron Wilson and I'm a Trek alum from the class of 1980. And today I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming one of the most accomplished runners in Penn Track and Field history, Denis Elton Cochran-Fikes. Before we bring Denis onto the program, I'd like to give you a brief glimpse of what Denis has accomplished both on and off the track. By the time Denis graduated from Rice High School in Harlem in 1970, he held state class records in the mile, the 2 mile, and 3 mile, while also setting the Van Cortlandt High School cross country record in a then record time of 12:25.7. Not content with those marks, in January of 1970, he set a flat mile record at the legendary New York Armory in a time of 4:15.9. which ranks second all time among US schoolboy runners. Upon his arrival at Penn in 1970, Denis immediately established his presence by winning the Big Five Freshman Cross Country Championship, and then becomes a member of Penn's third place finish in the 1971 NCAA Cross Country Championship, which is the best finish ever by a Penn cross country team. Denis is the current school record holder in the mile at 3:55. Former school record holder in the 3 mile and the steeplechase. For 17 years, his 3:55 was the fastest by a Black American. By the time Denis left Penn, the 4-time All-American Helder was part of 25 school records in track and cross country. If that weren't enough, subsequent to leaving Penn, Denis served his country as a first lieutenant in the US Marine Corps, where he continued to compete while coaching their middle and long distance runners and updating their physical training for new recruits. In his spare time, he managed to coach Harvard's women's cross country team to a 4th place finish in the 1982 NCAA Cross Country Championship, was named NCAA District 1 Cross Country Coach of the Year in 1984. In 2004, he was named to Penn's 3rd Athletic Hall of Fame class. Denis also served as an Associate Athletic Director and then Compliance Officer from Penn before retiring from his alma mater in 2017. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ron. Glad to be here.
All right, Denis, I want to take you back to your family and your early career. Did you or your family have any inkling that you had an athletic gene that would propel you on to greatness?
Okay, well, Ron, I'm going to go real early on you. I was born prematurely in rural North Carolina, the youngest of 5 children. I was raised by a single parent in New York City housing. I was raised in a family with a difference. That difference being that 2 of my brothers had intellectual impairments. Back in the day, they were referred to as retarded, a term that I don't like and luckily isn't being used much today. Part of my youth was that even though I was the youngest, I still shared the responsibilities of taking care of my 2 brothers up until the time that they were institutionalized at a location for the care of retarded people. So athletics, sports, not really something that was much talked about or discussed in my household. So clearly there was no inkling that I was doomed for whatever athletic success I accomplished.
But Denis, you also told me a great story about a foot race between you and your sister. Can you share that story with your audience?
My beautiful sister Cecilia, we found ourselves in this foot race. I'm not quite sure what all the circumstances were, but nonetheless, the challenge was accepted and I was destroyed. You know, my sister whipped me so bad, it was devastating, it crushed me. It certainly confirmed for me that I am not a sprinter. There is no bone in my body, no muscle twitch, nothing. I could not run. Yeah, I was devastated by the fact that I ignored that she was 6 years older than me. Ron, the only thing I saw was that I was beaten by a girl, you know, and that was totally unacceptable.
Well, Denis, let me say this. We're glad that your sister didn't destroy your future athletic career.
Well, you know, there were other forces at play. But, you know, growing up, you know, I grew very quickly. By the time I was in 6th grade, I was already 6 feet, approximately 175 pounds, with no hand-eye coordination whatsoever. I was frightened, absolutely frightened of the basketball and the basketball court, because those things meant nothing but embarrassment to me. Didn't want to go near them. I mean, I couldn't even run in a straight line.
Okay, so you arrive at Rice High School in Harlem. Again, you have no desire to participate in any sports. How did you arrive as a runner in track and cross country?
Well, let's just say a higher power intervened. And that higher power started even before high school. Prior to attending Rice, I spent a short time at Epiphany College in Newburgh, New York, which is a seminary run by the Josephites, for the Josephite order. And so I left the summer before starting Rice. I left Epiphany, all with the intentions of, after high school, returning to seminary. But Rice is a school in Harlem. It had the distinction of being the only high school in Harlem. And you know, that summer, a letter came in the mail informing me of different rules, regulations, policies, and procedures. One of the things that was included in that letter was the notice that all Rice students were expected to be part of a club or an athletic team. And when I read that, I was panic stricken, anxiety all over the place, to the point of being sick. I remember asking my mom, could I change schools? And of course, that was out of the question. My brother Don took pity on me and figured that he could whip me into shape by letting me accompany him to his practices. He ran for his high school during the academic year, Erasmus, and in the summers he ran for New York Pioneer Club. So I go with him to McCoon's Dam Park to run. His instructions to me were to run until I get tired, stop, run again, repeat. And so I did that for a number of weeks. And I think it was probably about 5 or 6 weeks before I was able to run a mile without stopping. And so at that point, I felt that I was ready for the handball team, and so then, classes start. First day of school, we're going through our classes, and it's time for the religion class. And in walks the religion teacher, and surprise number one, he's my sister's old boyfriend. So I'm thinking, oh, this is interesting. So I'm thinking, okay, well, we can work with this. The next day was the field day that they had talked about for the freshmen. And it was then that I got surprise number two. Eddie, or Mr. Robinson, as I was told to call him, was the brand new freshman track coach. So my plan changed from handball to thinking I'll join the track team, join very figuratively, thinking that I will just sort of like hang out with Eddie. We'll have fun. I won't have to run. I certainly won't have to work out. Luckily for me, Eddie had other plans. At that field day, I neglected to mention that I ran the longest event they had, which was a half, finished second. And Eddie, being the new coach, didn't have any distance people at all at that point. So he said, okay, you're on the team, you're running distance. And I'm thinking back, flashback, to the race with my sister. And I'm thinking like, well, I know I'm not a sprinter. And my brother Don, his coach required him to run a little cross country as training, as conditioning for the season. And so I figured, okay, well, maybe I can do this. And so the year started. I had some success, early on. And my brother told me about one of his former teammates at Erasmus who had graduated and was now running for NYU, that being the great Byron Dice. And so overnight, Byron Dice became the person that I wanted to emulate. He was my role model. He was not a sprinter. He was Black. And it was like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Well, Denis, guess what we've done? We've actually reached out to Coach Johnson to get his perspective about how you got started in this sport. So if you hold on a second, we're actually going to bring out a video from your freshman coach, Coach Robinson. Coach, first of all, thank you for agreeing to meet with us today.
Certainly, my pleasure.
All right. When we reached out to Dennis and asked him about his early influences in track and field, you were the first name that came up. But if
Uh,
you could you tell us, were you instrumental in Dennis choosing track, and what convinced you that he was a natural in the middle distance and long distance running?
we have a field day for all the freshmen, and all the freshmen run the field day, and the last event, I guess, is a mile run.
Okay.
And there he was, leading the pack, not breathing heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went, holy moly, who is this kid?
Right.
Still not recognizing the little kid because he had grown, of course, over the years, couple of years, I guess, since I'd seen him. And it was only after we started talking that he reminded me that I said, oh, okay. But no, I knew nothing about him in grammar school, didn't know if he ran track. Um, no, didn't know.
Did you have to convince him to come out for the team?
No. There was sort of a unspoken rule in Rice High School that if you ran well on the field day, you came out for the team.